Ladies and gentlemen, have you ever wondered what happens to your body when you go to sleep drunk? And why is it that so many people take alcohol to help them fall asleep, while at the same time so many drinkers suffer from things like insomnia and disturbed sleep? All this and much more coming right up. Just before we get into the video, if you want to get access to the free video training showing you how to control your drinking without AA or willpower, click the link in the description. I'll be showing you how to use the mental model called first principles thinking to get control of your drinking. I'll be talking about the 5 critical mistakes that 90% of drinkers make, and I'll also be sharing the 2 phases of becoming sober clear. You do not want to miss that training video. It will change your mindset around drinking forever so you can start getting your health, career, confidence and relationships back on track. Click the link in the description for instant access. So, before we get into the specifics of what happens when you fall asleep drunk, we first have to understand and take a look at how normal sleep works. And the key concept here is the so-called sleep cycle. Our sleep goes through 4 distinct stages. Together, these 4 stages make up the so-called sleep cycle. The first stage is that of lighter sleep, followed by stage 2, which is deeper sleep, and then the third and deepest stage of sleep. The 4th stage of sleep is the so-called rapid eye movement, or REM sleep. This is where your eyes move around and you start to see dreams. Now, this is actually a light stage of sleep. In other words, it's easier to wake up during REM sleep. A sleep cycle progresses through the first 3 stages and then REM in around 90 to 120 minutes. So 1.5 to 2 hours for one cycle. Then the cycle returns to the very first stage, light sleep, and then the whole cycle starts again. On any given night, we go through 4 to 6 sleep cycles. And while each of these cycles is always around 1.5 to 2 hours, the relative proportion of each stage changes as the night progresses. And the stage that changes the most is REM sleep. During our first sleep cycle, when we fall asleep, REM lasts for 10 minutes. But with each successive cycle, REM increases in length at the expense of the other 3 stages. In the very last cycle before we wake up, REM sleep can last up to 1 hour. At that point, we're spending most of our time dreaming. So, what about the first half of the night when we're sleeping drunk? Well, in the higher doses required to produce a state of drunkenness, alcohol acts as a sedative. In other words, it suppresses the activity of the central nervous system, making it much easier to fall asleep. The sleep latency, in other words, the time it takes from lying down to falling asleep, decreases when you're drunk, making alcohol a common self-medication option for people who struggle to fall asleep. Some researchers estimate that as many as 1 out of 10 people have self-medicated with alcohol in this way. Additionally, during the first part of the night, alcohol promotes deep sleep at the expense of light sleep. This means that the length of time that you spend at stage 3 of the cycle increases. The result is that it's very difficult to actually wake up. Drinkers often describe this kind of sleep as, quote, passing out or blacking out, and with good reason, because there is practically no REM sleep. There are no dreams and nothing to recall from this portion of the night. It's all like one big black void. So, what about the second part of the night? While you are soundly sleeping away, your body is busy metabolizing the alcohol. Depending on how much you drank, it can be out of your system 4 or 5 hours after you lie down. At that point, the REM sleep that was suppressed during the first half of the night comes back with a vengeance. Deep sleep is now suppressed, and you spend the large majority of your time in REM sleep. And because REM sleep is a lighter type of sleep, it is far easier for you to now wake up. And you are almost certain to wake up in order to go to the toilet. You see, alcohol is a diuretic. In other words, it makes you want to pee a lot. And it does this because it suppresses a hormone called vasopressin. This hormone is an antidiuretic. In other words, it tells your kidney to hold onto water. By suppressing this hormone, alcohol produces the opposite effect: frequent urination and ultimately dehydration. If you get up to go to the toilet during the first half of the night, you will usually be able to fall back asleep without any problems. But when you get up during the second part of the night, it can become increasingly difficult to fall back asleep. Your body is now stuck in these lighter stages of sleep, and the discomfort from the dehydration can make it even more difficult to fall asleep. So, the morning is the time of reckoning, in the form of the hangover, the crippling headache, and so on. Now, the headache is caused by the toxic metabolites of alcohol, principally acetaldehyde, as well as formaldehyde. Having expelled so much urine during the night, your body is now severely dehydrated, and you literally feel as if the blood has been sucked from your veins. At the same time, because you probably had a horrible night of sleep, you're also feeling exhausted. This sleep deprivation amplifies the primary effects of the hangover. And sadly, there is no cure for a hangover. Hydrating with lots of water and other fluids is the most important thing. Many people also try to take aspirin or another painkiller for the headache, though it's just not clear how well these work. Now, after all of this, you won't be surprised to hear that insomnia and disturbed sleep are among the most common complaints of heavy drinkers. Estimates vary widely, with studies suggesting between a third to 90% of drinkers suffering with some form of sleeping problems. In turn, this disturbed sleep leads to daytime problems like poor performance at work and memory problems. There is also the risk of developing or aggravating psychological conditions like anxiety and depression. The solution to solving these problems and regaining a healthy sleep is no big surprise. Stop drinking alcohol. But bear one thing in mind, there will be an adjustment period after you have stopped drinking. In other words, if you've been drinking heavily for a while, then your sleeping patterns will definitely need some time to adjust to the absence of alcohol in your system. This period will last for a few weeks, and around 90% of former drinkers will experience even worse sleep during this time. But soon, your sleep will resemble that of a non-drinker. Hope you enjoyed this video. Have a great day.